Today's news, Kim Jong-nam, the hunted heir to a dictator who met death in exile.
North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un's brother Kim Jong-nam has been murdered in Malaysia. This is probably the biggest story in Asia today. It's been on every single website that is trying to attract attention, all the news websites, all the basic K-pop websites. It's very shocking because it does appear that Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea, did in fact somehow order this murder.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that he tried to kill his half-brother. His first assassination attempt was back in 2012, where he tried to take his brother out in Macau in a shootout that he narrowly escaped from.
That's a little surprising to me because the North Korean government has sponsored a nice house, a very lavish residence in Macau for Kim Jong-nam, the one who's been assassinated, and his family. That's where he lived, and that's where his family lived under sort of Chinese protection.
Yeah, his family is still there under Chinese protection, which is probably good because he has a son who is now like the heir to the North Korean throne because he's the oldest son. He was the oldest son, so technically he should be the dictator of North Korea.
The one that was killed?
The one that was killed and not his younger brother, which is why this is not surprising to me because Kim Jong-un is a little crazy up in the head, as we all know, and he has had it out for his brother for a very long time, and Kim Jong-nam did not make it easy on him back in 2012 when he called his brother a figurehead. And there's been all this speculation that if Kim Jong-un steps out of line, that they were going to bring his older brother back in and stick him in the role of dictator and get rid of Kim Jong-un. So he's had this kind of paranoia weighing on his paranoia conscience for a while, and now it's gone.
A couple of things have been happening with North Korea recently. I say recently in the past, say 6 months to a year or so, that makes North Korea look a little bit friendlier or a little bit more like a nice guy. No, the country in general, you're giving me the look like, I can't wait to hear this. One of them is they've opened up to tourism, and a lot of people can now, through China, go and visit North Korea in a relatively safe space and visit and see the sights and go on the state-conducted tour. This was not allowed prior to a couple of years ago, and now tourism is really one of the main industries in North Korea. We know that this is happening because people are posting videos all over the internet now. I remember when we lived in South Korea and Vice did a piece on North Korea. No one had ever really seen video of North Korea prior to Vice sort of sneaking in and very secretly videotaping their experience.
Well, part of that was because North Korea until 2008, from 1987 to 2008, was on a terrorist watch list. And so there was this big warning, don't go to North Korea. And there was this big boycott of North Korea. But after 2008, they removed them from the list. And so then they could start doing things like tourism again.
That is all true, except if you're in China, you could still go to North Korea prior to 2008. We both met a gentleman who was a very, very senior analyst in South Korea who's from the UK named Michael Breen. I interviewed him for the documentary that I was shooting, and he had been to North Korea many, many times, met Kim Il-sung, who is the original leader of North Korea from 1953 on. He's the grandfather of Kim Jong-un, who is now the current leader. Michael Breen gave a lot of insight when we met him to what it was like, and he had gone there 8 separate times, I believe, from 1991, 8 years in a row. So it was possible to visit North Korea, but prior to 2007, 2008, like you were saying, on the watch list made it very, very difficult for the majority of Earthlings to go and see North Korea, but now they can. Video all over the internet of North Korea has caused, I think, people to look at it as, oh, it is a little bit more of a normal place for people, even though they don't say have the open internet. I know a lot of people can see their own perspective on this, but me having lived in South Korea and looking up to North Korea from South Korea and still not really knowing much, seeing all this video in the last year or so is really just, it's allowing everybody to see all this information that you weren't before, and North Korea really isn't that crazy of a place. It's really just run by a crazy man.
Well, people in general aren't all crazy, so there is something to what you were saying there. There's probably, and I'm sure, especially from having seen different interviews with former North Korean people who've left the country, there's a lot of really nice people in North Korea, but there's also a lot of crazy shit going on, and that's not saying that there's not a lot of issues with North Korea.
It's really just the government up there that's crazy. It's not the people. I mean, really, the people just are family members of South Koreans. That's really what North Korea is. It's just filled with people that are related to people in South Korea, but they're not allowed to see them.
If you don't know who Kim Jong-nam is, he is a 45-year-old half-brother of Kim Jong-un, who is the dictator of North Korea. He was on his way from Malaysia to go back to Macau. He was in Terminal 2 getting ready to go and check in to his flight when he was approached by two women, one of which who was wearing an LOL shirt, according to grainy footage. And there's some speculation on what actually happened. I've heard poison needles. I've also heard that he was shot in the face with some poison gas. But two women attacked him, one of which has been arrested, who went by the name of Don Thin Hong.
Who is from Vietnam, I think.
Yeah, she had a Vietnamese passport.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There was an image of a recreation of what could have happened. It looked like one of the women grabbed him from behind, started twisting him around, and then the second one just sprayed him right in the face. The CCTV footage did show the one woman, but they didn't actually show the incident. He was in line for an economy jetliner back to Macau. Like, he was on holiday in Malaysia for a week. He didn't have any security. He didn't appear to be with any family or friends.
And he was using a fake passport, which he's been known to do. He's got a long history of using fake passports.
This time he was using a fake passport, though?
Yes, this time he was using a fake passport.
Did you guys hear about the fake passport controversy back in 2012 when he tried to enter Japan? You know about that.
That was not from 2012. That was 2001 when he tried to enter Japan and go to Tokyo Disney. Because boy just wanted to go see himself some Mickey Mouse.
Except he had a passport from the Dominican Republic, and it was a Chinese name, and it translated to Fat Bear. Yeah, and he tried to enter, and it ended up screwing up his father at the time, who was the dictator of Korea, Kim Jong-il. And he had to consequently cancel a meeting or a trip to China because his son embarrassed him going into Japan. China has really mopped up a lot of the messes that have happened with North Korea. Like, North Korea is just this little place, really, that was secured by the Soviet Union until the fall of the Soviet Union in 1989, and then China sort of had to pick up the pieces and really support North Korea from here on out. Talking about politics is not interesting, but this story is.
It's very interesting because this guy should have been the dictator to North Korea.
The one that died.
The one that died.
The one that was assassinated.
He
Right.
was the president or the leader that North Korea probably should have had all along because, yes, he had a playboy lifestyle. He liked to spend money lavishly and go to casinos in Macau and travel the world and blah, blah, blah. But he was actually a decent guy and had a head on his shoulders for things like economics and stuff like that. But he embarrassed his country, he embarrassed his dad, and then when his father died in 2011, he was then cut off from even receiving money from North Korea, which is probably why he was on the economic flight and not a first-class flight.
It's important to know also that he was the only family member that was not present at the funeral in 2011 when they marched Kim Jong-il through the streets of Pyongyang. It was all over the news when that happened. We were living in Korea. It was on the news for 3 days straight. It was snowing, and he was the only family member that was not there.
And there was probably pretty good reason for him not being there. One reason being that they don't necessarily really like him. He kind of brought shame upon his family. But the other reason is what we're seeing now, which is he was assassinated. His life was in danger because his brother wanted to take over the government and was supposed to take over the government and did. Kim Jong-un is in charge. But he's a little cray and he's a little paranoid about his older brother, or was. And so, as we all know in Game of Thrones, you take out the other people who stand in the way.
Comments, you guys, in your reaction to this. I know that all of you like K-pop news, or you're attracted to Korea through K-pop, Korean dramas, and Korean entertainment. And this is one of those stories that we enjoy talking about and that you might also be interested in hearing about. So let us know what you think, or what you heard, or what your reaction to a modern day assassin that runs a country. Because that's what this is.
Do you miss the fat panda? What was he? The
Fat Bear.
The Fat Bear. Do you think that he should have ruled North Korea? What are your thoughts? Let us know.
Click the like button. Thank you so much for supporting us. Click the bell for notifications. Check out the link to KGL, and don't forget to subscribe for more Hallyu Back news. That's it. We're out of here. Hasta luego.
Bye.